Power rarely disappears. It changes form. A capital loses influence. A dynasty collapses. A political system dissolves. And observers often describe the moment as the end of an era. But the geography that once sustained that power remains exactly where it was. This is Achronic, a long-form documentary series about power, geography, and time. Not events, not heroes, not chronology, structures that outlast empires. Political systems often behave as if power were something they create. Institutions expand, armies advance, borders shift, and authority appears to grow outward from the center of the state. Yet much of what appears to be political expansion is simply the occupation of geographic advantages that already existed. Strategic corridors, coastal access, river systems, natural gateways between regions. These spatial structures shape movement long before any government attempts to control them. Geography organizes movement long before politics attempts to organize authority. Mountain ranges compress travel into narrow corridors. Rivers create natural transport systems that link distant territories. Coastlines provide access points where inland regions connect to maritime networks. Over long periods of time, movement repeatedly follows the same paths through these landscapes. Merchants use them. Migrating populations use them. Armies eventually follow them, because the terrain quietly limits the number of viable routes through which large systems can move. These routes gradually accumulate infrastructure. Roads appear. Ports expand. Cities grow where flows intersect. What begins as geography slowly becomes a network. And once that network stabilizes, it becomes extremely difficult for political systems to ignore. Political power frequently emerges where these structures already concentrate movement. But because political systems claim ownership of the territories they occupy, the geography that made those territories valuable often disappears from view. When the political system eventually collapses, observers interpret the change as the disappearance of power. Yet what has actually disappeared is only the authority that temporarily managed the structure. The structure itself remains. Ports that once supported imperial fleets continue receiving ships. Cities that once served as administrative capitals remain centers of population and exchange. Trade corridors continue carrying movement across the same landscapes. Even borders that appear newly created often follow older geographic lines. Rivers, mountain chains, coastal arcs, natural passages through terrain. Political systems may rename these places. They may reorganize the institutions that govern them. They may construct new identities around them. But the spatial logic that made those locations powerful rarely changes. Because geography evolves slowly. Political authority evolves quickly. This difference in speed produces one of the most persistent illusions in history. When empires collapse, observers believe that power has disappeared. But what often disappears is simply the name attached to it. The same strategic regions continue to organize movement. The same cities continue attracting economic activity. The same corridors continue guiding trade between distant territories. Over centuries, this process creates a layered landscape of influence. Different political systems occupy the same geographic structures at different moments in time. Empires, kingdoms, republics, and modern states may all attempt to organize the same corridors of movement. Each system believes it is constructing a new order. Yet from a spatial perspective, they are often rediscovering the same advantages that earlier systems already recognized. Ports that were valuable centuries ago remain valuable today. Cities that once connected regional trade networks continue to organize economic activity. Transport corridors that once carried caravans later carry railways, highways, and fiber optic cables. Technology changes the speed of movement, but it rarely changes where that movement concentrates, because the terrain continues to guide the structure beneath it. Power shifts, names change, flags are replaced, but the landscape quietly preserves the conditions that made those concentrations of power possible. And over time, new systems repeatedly settle into the same structures that previous systems once occupied. Because power does not always disappear, often it simply changes names while remaining in the same place.